Your attention, please. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise for the procession as they arrive into the hall?
Declare this congregation of the University of the Western Cape duly constituted. Yazisa ngasemthethweni lenhlangano ye-University yeNtshona Kapa. Ek verklaar hierdie vergadering van die Universiteit van Wes-Kaapland as behoorlik gekonstitueer.
Good afternoon, everyone. The national anthem will be led by the UWC Creative Arts Choir, and we encourage you to sing along with us, please. Thank you.
Israel,
be seated. Good afternoon once again. My name is Nita Lawton Misra, and I'm the Registrar of the University. Before I hand over to our Chancellor, who is going to officially welcome you, there are a few housekeeping announcements I'd like to make. Please note that there are emergency exits on either side of this venue. And in the event of an emergency, please remain calm and await further instructions from an official of the university. Should there be a medical emergency, we do have medical emergency services available on standby outside the venue. Please find the nearest usher and they will help you. There are toilets at the back of this hall, to my left, as well as at the end of the passage outside. Kindly switch off your mobile phones or put them on silent mode during the course of the official ceremony. Further announcements will follow at the end of the ceremony. Thank you very much. Before I hand over to the Chancellor, this afternoon we will be led in prayer by Mr. Rodrigue George.
Good afternoon. Please let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, we thank you for the grace that has brought us all here today. Thank you that this moment provides us with reason for exceeding joy, but also affording us the opportunity for deep reflection. For 65 years, your hand has graciously guided this institution called the University of the Western Cape. We thank you for her people, rich in diversity and gifted beyond measure. You have steered us through the darkest moments of the history of our country, helping us to be the champions of the marginalized and the oppressed, to be the launch pad for many flourishing careers, from being a single campus in Belleville to having multiple locations across the city, and increasing the reach of our impact across the globe. Those who have led this institution with distinction have made an indelible mark, leading us through many changing seasons and ensuring that we were able to plant our flag on the summit of many mountains. Today we have the privilege to install the 8th Rector and Vice-Chancellor of UWC. We thank you for Professor Robert Balfour and for allowing his experience, skills, and insight to intersect with this institution. We thank you for bringing alongside him our Chancellor, Archbishop Makgoba, Professor Kgalagala, and the other gifted leaders who serve as the senior management team of this institution. Help them, dear Lord, to navigate this institution through the myriad of opportunities that will present itself in the time ahead. Provide Professor Balfour with the wisdom on how to hold the power of leadership with humility and with the grace to boldly usher us into an era of unprecedented increase in institutional advancement, innovation, and the vision to overcome some of the immediate challenges confronting the higher education terrain. Today, we entrust him in your care. We pray that your blessing will rest on this installation ceremony, on our engagement, fellowship, and our celebration. Above all, we pray that this day would be a continuation of the magnificent strides we have made, that your blessing would be evident for all to see, and for the transformation of the academic project as the doors of learning continue to remain open in order for a multitude of generations to make this their preferred choice of learning. For this, we thank you and we extol your greatness, now and forevermore. Amen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You all look lovely. And before I do the formal welcome, I want you to turn to the person next to you and actually say, welcome, you look lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You all looked so serious, so that's why we had to break this ice. So, Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, former ministers, Dr. Naledi Pandor and Mr. Trevor Manuel, members of the Consular Corps, provincial ministers of the Western Cape, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Cape Town, Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee on Education, the Ministers' advisors, the Chancellor of the University of the... Now, I'm reading a script and I see my name here. I'll skip that one. Chair and members of the Council of the University of Western Cape, senior management of the Western Cape University, Chair of the USAF Board, Professor Francis Peterson, former Vice Chancellor, Professor Tyrone Pretorius, Vice Chancellors and Deputy Vice Chancellors of other universities, members of Senate, members of the Student Representative Council, colleagues, distinguished guests, and friends of UWC. It is an honor as Chancellor of this great university to welcome you to the inauguration ceremony of our 8th Rector and Vice Chancellor, Professor Robert John Balfour. This occasion heralds a new chapter in our university's leadership and reaffirms our commitment to the values that define UWC: equity, access, and social justice. As we gather here today with a focus on ushering in a new rector, we do so with a deep understanding of the challenges that continue to confront higher education in our country. Many of our students, particularly those in the missing middle, struggle to fund their studies. They do not qualify for full government support, yet they lack the means to pay their fees. These financial barriers threaten to deny them the future they have worked so hard for. That is why I'm heartened that our students themselves have taken up the challenge of making sure their peers are not left behind. The Income Valetu, our future fund, is a student-initiated effort developed in line with university financial guidelines to address urgent needs such as registration fees, essential course material, and food security. The fact that our students are not only advocating for change, but actively working to create it, speaks to the spirit of UWC, a university shaped by struggle, but always striving towards a more just society. Together with Professor Balfour and the university leadership, we are committed to supporting this initiative over the next 2 years. But we cannot do it alone. That is where I extend a call to all of you, our alumni, our staff, our partners, and our friends. I invite you to join me in championing the Chancellor's appeal for the Income Faletu Fund. Every contribution, no matter how small, is a step towards making certain that no deserving student is excluded from the university because of financial hardship. UWC has long been a place of transformation where students from humble beginnings go on to become leaders, professionals, and change makers. But transformation cannot be sustained if access to education is limited to only those who can afford it. Our commitment must be an inclusive, accessible university, one that truly reflects the aspirations of our democracy. Today, as we celebrate the leadership of Professor Balfour, let us also renew our collective responsibility to build a university that leaves no one behind. Let us invest in the future of our students, for in them lies the future of our nation. I thank you, and a warm welcome to you, Professor Balfour.
I present to you the 8th Rector and Vice Chancellor of the University of the Western Cape, Professor Robert John Balfour.
There's a song, I think, that begins, "Oh, happy day." And at some point this week, I was also singing to myself, "One day at a time." Dumela, dumelang, sanibonani, tobela. Goeiemiddag, good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, namaste, and baie welkom hier. Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Nkabani, former Minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, members of the Consular Corps, provincial ministers of the Western Cape, Deputy Mayor of the City of Cape Town, Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee on Education, Chancellor, His Grace, the Archbishop of the University of the Western Cape, Chair of Council, Ms. Goliso Mpongoshe, and members of our esteemed council, the UWC Board of Trustees and donors and supporters of the university, our Student Representative Council and President of the Student Representative Council, senior management of the University of the Western Cape, Chairs of University South Africa, Prof. Francis Peterson, Prof. Tyrone Pretorius, our former Vice-Chancellor, members of our Senate, UWC colleagues, distinguished guests. As I stand before you today as the 8th University's Vice-Chancellor and Rector, I'm conscious that my predecessors are honored as leaders who, in laying the foundations of UWC, have had to confront the distortions of our racist past and to affirm in the soil of the Western Cape that incredible resilience that is uniquely South African, and UWC within it as a place to be South African, as a place where the marginal and the unseen have an opportunity to thrive and succeed. Our past as UWC is defined by struggle and the consequences of heroic principled action that refused race categorization, refused the marginalization of apartheid spatial planning or the perversion of honest labor and unaccountable capital within a colonialism of a special kind. A consequence of the intellectual and activist underpinnings of our university is that we have rejected claims that ideas and certain forms of labor must be reserved for certain types of people. We have rejected these as perversions of human creativity. UWC has instead affirmed values that are core to the human condition: the creativity, the generosity of the human spirit, the solidarity among the oppressed, equality, and the affirmation especially of those most marginal in society. From that struggle has come a wealth of incredible human expertise and leadership. From a UWC perspective, it is an open wealth. It is a common wealth, as it were, and its welcoming, its expertise rests within our communities, our professions, and our work for the common good. Universities do not function as businesses and should not be viewed only in terms of the balance sheet, but as a generational layering of contributions to science, to arts, humanities, to care, and to development. We have produced and will continue to produce leaders who are equipped to govern, statesmen and women who are set apart by their intellectual accomplishment and civic commitment, and whose investment in our communities constitute what it means to be a professional. Ours is not a predicated, short-lived education that is focused on accumulation of wealth, shallow notions of status, but rather on persistent ideals about belonging, inclusion, and success. Our university is South Africa's prized protea flower in its African garden. Above all, UWC graduates are people who love South Africa as a place of hard realities with high aspirations, and in that love commit to place and commit to people. As I stand here today, I want to pledge my commitment to the values underpinning the academic project. Chancellor and distinguished guests, we live and work in a place where people are poor and unemployed. We are in a place where the marginal and the unseen hope for a better future and a more bearable present. Ours is not a place devoted to ideas of excellence that are destined to become the privileges of an elite, where knowledge is made to be self-serving or where access to education is withheld. Instead, UWC is a place that is proudly a place of plenty, despite the context of resource limitations, and an excellence for all of us. because we realize that even the graduate whose personal best is a 50% pass is able still to uplift a society, to transform it for the better. The UWC is a resilient, wonderful place. And while we recognize and celebrate excellence, we understand that excellence arises not from an individual's attainments, but from the firmament, the soil that produced it. So much like the protea that adorns the shield of our university, our history and becoming can be likened to the protea. We have thrived in a soil that is tough, even at times arid, and at times blistering in the sun. And we know that we will outlast our anticipated origins and ends. We think of UWC as a story of placement on the outskirts of Cape Town. But we have changed that history. And how we have changed it through the Gerwel and Pretorius years, encountering apartheid's physical planning and social marginalization, we've done it through deliberative relocation in the city, or through the O'Connell years, where we countered ideas that science and medicine were not our fields, and we have become places where science and medicine are part of our curricula, are possible. Struggle might be the soil in which our proteas have grown, but, distinguished guests, it is resilience, which is surely the flower of our prosperity. This resilience has ensured that UWC is, for every parent whose child has come here, the hope for a better future in Africa. And for every graduate coming through here, the realization of an African dream which is global, in which academic recognition and even sporting fame are not only the exceptions, but the testimony to a wonderful and an exceptional education that the university offers. I come to UWC Chancellor with a vision, knowing that we have currently crafted for the next 10 years a vision also for 2035 to become a leading university, most notable for the nexus between the undergrad and the postgraduate degree programs and its research endeavor. Its substantial place in key areas of our knowledge ecosystem, its keen focus on the public good, on transforming lives, and a productive set of relationships and partnerships that underpin our institution. My role in this, of course, is only as the first servant of the institution. It is to ensure that the maps by which we chart our course to the stars are clear and guiding, and the means by which we attain our milestones are made adequate and are kept sustained. As a steward of these proteas in its African garden of this cherished institution, I am guided in turn by our key governance structures of our council, our academic custodianship of the Senate, and it should be said going forward that of our institution, that the relationship between those bodies should be supportive, trusting, and engaged. Everything we do as a collective of both the academic and our student leadership should be seen and experienced to be in the service of a public mandate to provide excellent education, a wonderful ray of opportunities and innovation for research impact, and experience of engagement in our communities that is elevating. It is inclusive. It is nourishing of the places and spaces around us. Stewardship, then, of our resources and custodianship of our public mandate are critical for our work together. Let us unite to exemplify what it means to love South Africa and to prize above all education in its freedom. Let us be a place where government turns to for partnerships to explore sustainability solutions of our uncertain time, and a place to which capital and industry turn to for research and innovation that is characterized by integrity, that is characterized by ethical practice. UWC might well have been placed here by a design of the forces of a darker era, but in that very placement, distinguished guests, we are the possibility always of a brighter future. To ensure that future, we need to consider a stewardship that requires a long-term view. A public university is funded by the shared wealth derived from the labor of its people in the interests of the public good. When we are charged with responsibilities in public universities, we are charged with responsibilities to our public. That responsibility exceeds our obligations to the present. It includes a need for fidelity, to courage, to commitment of all those who have come before us and the promise of all who will come after us. Some of the frameworks within which we undertake our work, such as law and policy, are given to us more than shaped by us. But judicious decisions have to be made within what are particular moments in time, within particular objective constraints. A university leader has a substantive responsibility, and that responsibility carries a weight. But that weight accumulates in times of crisis. And so responsive leaders must be acutely aware of the need to keep touch with societal realities. With millions of people, especially young people, without work, endemic hunger, millions without decent homes, frightening levels of violence, and increasing human rights violations, we must say to ourselves, we recognize we are in a deep crisis. The contours of the planetary crisis are all too clear and include environmental devastation, massive global inequalities, war, and the growing support for very dangerous forms of populism and authoritarianism, even in so-called democratic environments. Universities are not isolated from these lived realities, and therefore, around the world as a sector, we must face serious challenges. For a long time now, there has been pressure, in the words of Mahmoud Mamdani, to shift towards the idea that higher education is more of a private than a public good. South African universities face particular deep structural challenges, and while we continue assessing those challenges and making suggestions to ameliorate them, no university can resolve them alone. And so we depend on the support of our government, we depend on the support of our society to nourish the institution. We remember, nonetheless, that difficult circumstances are part of the history of our university and our country. But what is wonderful about that history is that we have met those challenges. We have met them with commitment, creativity, and courage. When Jakes Gerwel was inaugurated as the Vice-Chancellor and Rector of this university in 1987, he, speaking during a time of popular insurrection and a brutal state repression, seized the moment. And he exercised a commitment to creativity and courage. His address was a moment of transcendence. He said of the university, it should become an intellectual home for the left. And we recall in that address an affirmation of a need for intellectual life of a public university to be integrated with and to emerge from the experience of people, all of our people. For Gerwel, it was not the matter of applying some dogma or another. This required a careful process of collective discussion, what he called the values and rigor of scholarship. This is still evident and relevant in the distinctive community that is UWC. Gerwel's speech was indeed a potent expression of what Paulo Freire called education as the practice of freedom. Education as the practice of freedom. But we know all too well that that freedom doesn't rest. There are, of course, moments of particular political intensity, but freedom is never won, ladies and gentlemen, full or permanently. Sustaining it requires constant commitment, and this, in my view, is a call to us to refocus our attention on the historical legacy of the university, not as an artifact of the past, but as a basis of commonly shared values for new research and a socially informed agenda inclusive of curriculum and student experience. The idea of the left is, in the hands of its most brilliant thinkers, a commitment to universal equality, to the dignity and freedom of all. It is a commitment to receiving each of us as a full and autonomous person. Frantz Fanon suggests that when we speak of all people, we must mean all people without regard to class, race, and national origin. We must understand that the oppressed, the excluded, and the denigrated require particular forms of deliberate and dedicated support. As a university of the left, we must strive to receive and engage all people with respect, care, and compassion. It must understand itself as located in wider communities and committed to the public good. It must, in Crane Sudin's wonderful phrase, work towards wider and wider inclusion of the whole treasure trove of human knowing. It is often difficult to keep sight of higher ideals day by day in our lives and our pressures of work. We should thus be motivated by the remarkable stories of this great institution of the Western Cape. But our university also has a remarkable history. In his book, The Perversity of Gratitude, and reflecting on his education in South Africa, Grant Farrad, who passed through many of the best universities of this world, writes about his teachers at UWC in a special way. He says, "They were the most committed tertiary instructors I have ever encountered." This is just one of the many affirmations of what has been achieved in our past as UWC under difficult circumstances, but this history matters, and it matters to me. The work of reflection and critique must be ongoing. It should be a permanent mode of our scholarly life. It should impact and be felt in our forms of activism, in which we sometimes also refer to engagement. It should be felt in our communities. But there are also moments, whether consequent to the demands of social or institutional crisis, or as a result of a deliberate intention to create time and space for this work, in which it can be organized, expanded, and accelerated. Chancellor and dear guests, my address to you today is an invitation to participate in an organized process, a reflection on a range of matters important for the intellectual tradition of our institution and matters that are still important for its future. These questions we must answer are as follows. How can we ground our university in the values of trust, openness, and transparency? How can we ensure that all our people, academics, support staff, and students are welcomed and valued and provided with an opportunity to thrive? How can we be the best teachers and offer the best courses that are a consequence of the inspiration and the intellectual tradition from which we have come? How can we advance scholarship, not just scholarship, but rigorous scholarship that contributes to a wider society so that we are impactful in our scholarly endeavors and that it matters in our communities? How can we ground our teaching scholarship in our own context, including our wonderful history, contemporary circumstances, forms of life and aspirations, and yet still be open to the world for all of the world? Even though our human talent pool comprises gifted and wonderful teachers, brilliant and important scholars among us, and many people who do the day-to-day and often less visible work to ensure that the university flourishes, it is important that in moving towards achieving the same strategic goals, we do so together, albeit in different ways. Strategy, therefore, is important in other ways, because if we work alone, we will not help to move the university forward. If we are headed in the wrong directions, our efforts and energies are wasted. In terms of strategic reflections for the university going forward, I want to talk about a few themes. Our future readiness of programs. As a university, our foremost commitment must be to ensuring future readiness of programs. And what is evident from government guidance to us about the curriculum is that the size and shape of undergraduate and postgraduate programs requires a new vision. The university will need to undertake going forward a future-fit curriculum review so that we consider a number of parameters, not only that in terms of information and communication technologies, but also in relation to a commitment to providing high-quality content in selected online teaching and learning in ways, I have to say, in ways that creates the necessary skills among our students to work collaboratively, cooperatively together. Within teaching as practice, we must consider the advances made by artificial intelligence on how we teach with integrity, on how our students learn, on our values as learners together. We therefore need to find ways to instill in students high levels of accountability, self-direction, and collaboration, because those skills underpin postgraduate research and teaching. Our postgraduate curriculum also needs attention. Another commitment must concern research for reach, in which I also consider how our curriculum responds to the unique challenges of this century, our 21st century, complex challenges that require us to work outside the silos of our disciplines to really embrace transdisciplinary, collaborative, and team-based postgraduate programs in which the value of the sciences for the social sciences, the value of humanities for economics, and so on, is strengthened and made evident. In summary, these two commitments entail the reduction of our narrow and undergraduate specializations in favor of stronger general degrees with multiple entry points into a wider array of postgraduate opportunities. There is one caveat to my vision, however, and that's to recognize that many of our programs are regulated by professional bodies and must be prized for their accreditations as guarantees which lead to ongoing employability of our graduates, in the examples of pharmacy and law and accounting and health. Thirdly, we must commit to a spirit that is freedom in its orientation and that draws on our students' and communities' experience of freedom as a practice through education. Freedom, as defined by Ruth Wilson Gilmore, is not just a set of abstracted commitments to a curriculum. It is also a place. Freedom is a place. And nowhere is this perhaps more relevant than in Belleville, Balfour, Mitchell's Plain, and Khayelitsha, the surrounding communities from which we not only draw our students, but also serve to house and accommodate our students. UWC is not only the experience of campus life, but it is also the experience of life in our communities. Thus, when we proudly proclaim, "I am UWC," we must consider whether this is equally applicable in Mitchell's Plain and Santa Cruz, as it is in Unibel or Hector Peterson residences. The fourth theme is around living and learning, our student and our staff facilities. I've made it clear in my preliminary observations to Council in late 2024 that improving the conditions of our students and delivering on accommodation for our students is important. Student success without a supportive environment, living environment, is difficult to achieve. And I am aware that the demand for university-controlled spaces is in short supply. So we need a high degree of collaboration with private providers and a high degree of transparency and accountability to students themselves. Residences are the home from home for our people, and our programs, development programs as part of student life, should be inclusive of privately accommodated as well as campus-based students. Among other strategies, well-designed, user-centered systems to ensure that students can participate in and report about the accommodation offered to them. This enables us to ensure a better degree of accountability and transparency between university and communities. It also enables us to uplift the general environment in a way that is purposeful. I would like to propose that my executive team consider adopting particular facilities of the institution and engaging with those facilities, the people who use them, ask them about their experiences of living there and of being there and become involved. Fifthly, we need accountability and transparency through digital transformation. Accountability and transparency help ensure that our university is a place where belonging is a practice and is also the practice of freedom. And so reviewing of our systems is needed. We need to commit distinguished guests to modernization of how we run the organization, reduce paper-based and manual work, and leverage technology to improve efficiencies and draw on the power of data analytics to make responsible and evidence-based decisions. Among the areas that are worthy of review entail, for example, our admissions processes, our registrations processes, financial aid, transport, safety, wellness, student-staff liaison, post-tertiary futures, and alumni relations. Finally, equality and belonging. As I've suggested in all of the above, place is a powerful way of understanding what it means to belong at UWC. How do we then account for the visible support and inclusions of persons from our most marginal constituencies and stakeholders in terms of LGBTQA+ persons and persons living with disabilities? UWC needs to commit to develop a leadership academy in which priority is accorded to women and persons from the LGBTIQA+ communities and persons living with disabilities. If we want to be a place of inclusion, we must demonstrate it in tangible ways so people know that they matter, and all people, to quote again Fanon, matter. In terms of this emphasis on place and people at UWC, there is a need to explore a framework for the promotion and recognition also of our support staff. Inevitably, this requires benchmarking in South Africa and even abroad, but if we accept that ours is a place of learning, that everyone is learning, students, academics, and our specialist support staff, in principle, we need such a policy in place. And while I understand, Chancellor, that there are resource implications for such initiatives, were we to be such a place where it was possible, it would surely encourage not only the loyalty of our staff, it would reduce flight risk, and most importantly, it would promote higher and higher levels of expertise development. We often talk about being a research-led institution, but I would like us to become a leading research institution. In my opening remarks to this address, I situated my understanding of UWC as a place, space, and circumstance. Circumstances affecting the place UWC, affecting the historical importance of UWC, and the ongoing critical relevance of UWC are important for our thinking about the role of the institution. What emerges powerfully from the period of my induction and onboarding in late 2024 is the need to reconsider our approaches to stewarding our resources. If we are to move from a commitment from being research-led to being a leading research university, we need to do this. A radical investment in postgraduate and postdoctoral research is necessary to make this leap forward. And the resources for this are not evident in our current budgetary planning environment. But I do believe that should we allow ourselves an opportunity, distinguished guests, to dream about a future for UWC in which we can better begin to see these as part of what is real about us rather than what is imagined, we can then begin to leverage the resources and funding necessary to do this. One such opportunity that needs much more verve, I want to say Wummer, but it's not in the official text, is our approach to donor funding, alumni relations, and the role of convocation in supporting these initiatives. Chancellor and distinguished guests, this brings me to the question, key question about sustainability of the institution. We need a strategy that concerns sustainability going forward, and it has to be a strategy in which student life and sport also feature, towards growing and diversifying our revenue base through our research, through our teaching, and so on. That strategy must be encompassing of the holistic vision of the institution. Of course, we want involvement with industry to increase. We want adaptability to markets to increase. But how can it be done? UWC is already a large provider of employment and business opportunity in local and surrounding communities. Through our innovation hubs, a strategy to involve small and medium enterprises in the ongoing development work of the institution and its maintenance could elevate the quality of what we do and add more hands to where we need them in doing this on our campuses and our sites. Growing our SMMEs in the environment, supporting their growth and investment in small communities, Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Balfour, Belleville, and the like, and the industrial areas in which we are placed, is an opportunity for us rather than a limitation for us. So, another opportunity that we should think about in realizing this goal is how to leverage our existing capabilities around technology transfer, entrepreneurship and innovation, and our state-of-the-art immersive technology center in which we stand out in respect of our capabilities to develop AR and VR content for industry and education. So there are lots of opportunities to make this happen for us, and they include the curriculum, they touch on research, and they are deeply impactful in our communities. And I'm convinced that through many of our CPD development opportunities, short learning programs, and so on, through micro-credentials, we can bring the university to the workplace. We can make a university curriculum relevant to workers in the workplace. From a curricular perspective, this also has the potential to generate additional income. I come to UWC culture, values, and change. I'm working towards the concluding remarks. And I want to focus on UWC as a place of culture, as a place of values. I've been overwhelmed, Chancellor and Minister, in meeting with students and colleagues by the warmth of the welcome from our artisans, workmen and women, our safety personnel, our academic and administrative support staff, and the student body. Thank you for that. To be sure, there are periods of unsettlement in our sector, and our institution needs to follow a path of recommitment to why we are here and why being where we are affects space, place, and purpose. In listening to and meeting with our students and staff, I have been engaged by the complexity of matters that they have brought forward, as also the new ideas and the new solutions. So, we need a collective set of what I would call critical conversations in our institution, where we consider afresh what it means to be optimally functioning, relevant, inclusive, If we want to move from being research-led to a leading research institution, we must be motivated by a commitment to inclusion, diversity, and enablement. Now, invested in those three small words is a huge idea of social justice. That ethical commitment which touches on the lives of all South African universities differently, but it should make UWC distinctive. A commitment to social justice in these terms is aimed at supporting a creation of positive environment in which work, sport, and art are celebrated. Our alumni, we must remind ourselves, our alumni are examples to us. Dalla Omar, Kader Asmal, people like Zoe Wickham, Rhoda Kadali, Zaki Ahmad, Wally Morrow, Chester Williams, and Senamaile Masongo, to name a few, are stellar examples of what it means to embody this integration of mind, body, and activism. Too often, in my experience, there arises in a large organization a disconnect between management and staff, where the outputs are not seen as integral measures of process and delivery is not committed to wholeheartedly. In large organizations, this risks a kind of institutional inertia. We are a public and common good organization. In a society of great inequality, the provision of work on the basis of public funds made available through government is a privilege for us. It's not an entitlement. It requires a commitment to a work ethic, sadly not always evident in public service, but it is, in my view, important as a public service leader that we prioritize it together. Be responsive to our communities. Be responsive to each other. Move quickly to help each other. Let us recognize that we are lucky to have jobs. We are lucky to be learning. It's wonderful, an opportunity. And we are fortunate to be working in a holistic environment which is devoted to people. It's devoted to the integration of life of the body and life of the mind. So respectful engagement with students and workers is a requirement in our context, because how we work together sets both the example and the tone for our students as future leaders, and also sets the example to the communities around us and our stakeholders. In the coming 5 years, our collective work on what I have termed the UWC way is a means of developing a shared understanding of the commitment to harmony of work, harmony of workers, and harmony in the work that we do together. It's not a soft, intangible harmony, but rather a commitment to identify dysfunction with a view to creating synergy, to optimize processes to create effectiveness, to remove obscurity to create transparency, to identify distrust so as to establish trust. The UWC way would involve a revisioning of our discourses of work so as to recognize the interdependencies better between our current organizational units so that we account better to each other for the processes stretching across structural arrangements. Chancellor and distinguished guests, I commit to work on the basis of these values, being trustworthy, respectful, ethical, accountable, and transparent with you. I call it treat for care. As we recommit to our esteemed institution to a future of greatness, our basis is shared and lived values. Some of the initiatives I've suggested in my talk are incremental steps. Others are leaps forward, but what is critical is that the changes we define together are experienced as deep changes, are fundamental and authentic. They take into account that our history is our struggle, and it's also our future. Our humble beginning is our foundation. Our constrained circumstance is our appetite for transformation. Our sense of what it means to be on the margins is our understanding of the power of inclusion. Our experience of poverty is our commitment to abundance of opportunity. Our past isolation is our passion for partnership. Ours is the future UWC, and now is its making. Let us build together that future place to belong and to uplift, that intellectual home of unshakable foundations and singular vision. I thank you.
Thank you for a most inspiring speech, Professor Balfour. Thank you very much. Esteemed guests, we will now have a musical item to be rendered by the UWC Creative Arts Choir. Please welcome them to the front. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful rendition. Guests, we now have a range of speakers taken from the various constituencies of the university. And to begin with, I'd like you to put your hands together to welcome our chairperson of the UWC Council, Ms. Kuliswa Mpongoshe.
Chancellor, distinguished guests, Judge Erasmus, our former chair, Ms. Dagu, our former chair, esteemed faculty, staff, students, honored guests, Professor Balfour's family, and most importantly, our newly installed rector, welcome to you all. Today marks a very important milestone in the life of the university. It's a time for us to reflect on where we have come from and to look ahead to the future. In many ways, this day represents renewal, filled with purpose and promise of progress. As the chairperson of council, it is my profound privilege and joy to welcome Professor Balfour as the 8th Rector and Vice Chancellor of the University of the Western Cape, my alma mater. Professor Balfour brings not only extensive expertise and outstanding leadership, but also a very clear vision that speaks to the core values and aspirations of this institution. His appointment signals the beginning of a new chapter, one that holds great potential for our university and the communities we serve. Professor Balfour, your career journey is truly inspiring. Not only have you excelled as an academic and leader, but your work in advancing multilingualism, decolonization, and inclusion in higher education is also remarkable. Through it all, you have shown a clear commitment to making education a force for positive transformation in our country. Your work reminds us that true leadership is not about titles or positions, but about the impact you make on the lives that you touch. In my culture, sithi umntu ngumntu ngabantu, which means a person is a person through other people. In fact, this has become not just a Xhosa culture or Zulu culture, it's a South African thing, right? This proverb speaks to the importance of community and collaboration. As you step into this important leadership role, may these words inspire you to build partnerships and unity within the university, community, and beyond. Please know that you are not walking this journey alone, Professor Balfour. You know, when Professor Pretorius was stepping down, my message to him was that he remains a core part of this university. He made a commitment to be available in his own way to Professor Balfour. So you have that to lean on as well. Behind you stands a community deeply rooted in social justice, inclusivity, and above all, excellence. We are ready to support you on this journey. We trust that under your leadership, UWC will continue to thrive as a space of critical inquiry, innovation, and meaningful engagement with the challenges that we face as a nation, and in fact, as the world globally. On behalf of the University Council, I offer our full support as you begin this exciting new chapter. May your vision for UWC light new pathways, and may your time here be marked by growth, resilience, and above all, great success. Congratulations, Professor Balfour, and welcome to UWC.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mpungoshe. You can see the women are dominating the stage today. Okay. On behalf of our Senate, I now call upon Professor Sarojini Nadar, who is going to convey Senate's congratulations to the newly installed Vice-Chancellor. Professor Nadar.
Esteemed colleagues, distinguished guests, Professor Balfour. On behalf of the University Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the University of the Western Cape. Your appointment comes at a moment of profound challenge for global higher education. Universities today are increasingly pressured to prioritize market-driven imperatives over critical scholarship, to commodify knowledge rather than uphold it as a public good, and to retreat from our role as spaces of ethical and intellectual inquiry. To lead an institution like UWC in this climate demands not only management skills, but also moral clarity. At UWC, across disciplines, from the humanities and social sciences to the natural sciences, law, health, and education, our work is driven by the imperative to produce knowledge that serves society. Yet, we must also confront the persistent inequities within our own sector. As a first-generation university graduate myself, I know firsthand that access to higher education is not a singular achievement, but an ongoing struggle. Regrettably, our students continue to face the same challenges I did almost 30 years ago. They must first secure financial access, then they must contend with struggles with physical access, the material struggles of housing, food security, and transport. But beyond these, the most insidious barrier remains epistemic, finding their histories, languages, and knowledge systems taken seriously in the curriculum. On this last count, UWC has long been a leader, resisting the superficial decolonial buzzwords. And yet, every new academic year, we are reminded that the fight for meaningful access, financial, physical, and intellectual, demands ongoing vigilance. As members of the University Senate, we recognize that our role extends beyond teaching and research. We are stewards of a university that must sustain rigorous inquiry, meaningful engagement, and the conditions for intellectual flourishing. But to do this work well, Professor Balfour, we need an environment that supports this rigorous research, that enables this meaningful engagement, and that recognizes the central role of those who teach, guide, and mentor the next generation of scholars. So, Professor Balfour, your insistence on careful and responsible stewardship of our resources is most welcome. In a constrained environment, we do not expect miracles, but we do expect principled, decisive leadership. You inherit an institution known for its resilience, and you picked up on this as well in your own address. But as Desmond Tutu, our Chancellor for over 25 years, reminded us, we are made for much more than mere survival. Resilience cannot and should not be an indefinite expectation. we must also flourish. The UWC Nature Reserve, with its deeply rooted yet adaptive biodiversity, offers a fitting metaphor. True growth is neither forced nor externally imposed, but emerges from the richness of its own ecosystem. Likewise, our flourishing as a university must be grounded in our shared commitments, values, and intellectual traditions. And UWC has much to be proud of. At a time when universities are under immense pressure to remain neutral in the face of injustice, we have refused. When others remained silent on the genocide in Gaza, UWC spoke unambiguously. This is the legacy you step into, a university that does not shrink from difficult truths. Of course, leadership is not just about stepping into the shoes of one's predecessor. And in this case, as those who know Professor Pretorius will attest, it is not just the shoes, but also the socks that must be filled. Professor Pretorius has the most funkiest and fashionable socks. And on this front, Professor Balfour, you are off to a strong start from what I can see. And then, of course, there are your hats. Practical, as you have said, but also a statement. In many ways, that is precisely the challenge of leading UWC, being both pragmatic and visionary, both protective and bold. Some days you will wear the hat of a strategist, others that of a mediator. Most days you will wear many hats at once. So, Professor Balfour, on behalf of the University Senate, a warm welcome. We do not merely hope that you will lead us well, we require it. And in return, we offer a community that is committed, engaged, and ready to build alongside you. May this be a space where you too find the conditions to flourish. Thank you.
Prof. Nadar, thank you for that extremely powerful message, and I think everyone agrees with me. Yes. With that, I'd like to call upon Mr. Mangaliso Nompula, who is the president of our convocation, to convey his congratulations. Thank you.
Former chairs of UWC Council, the Minister of Higher Education, Chairperson of Council, Chancellor, the UWC Executive led by the capable Prof. Robert Balfour, academic and non-academic staff, UWC Workers Union led by Chairman Ayanda, UWC alumni / convocation as led by a very young man, which is myself, Mangaliso Nompula, Student Representative Council, as led by President McIntosh Kasembe, non-UWC distinguished guests, service providers present, and often forgotten UWC vendors present. The Department of Higher Education and Training is an instrumental sector that seeks to transform society through higher education. The objectives set before the sector are necessary for any society in the plight of nation building. These objectives, amongst others, include improving socio-economic status of many households and communities within our country. It is no lie that in any plight to fulfill the publicly known objectives, challenges will become a stumbling block towards the realization of the end goal, which is to liberate the nation through education. It should become an unsaid rule of any progressive endeavor that the liberation of the majority over the minority should be top priority more than anything else. These challenges include, but not limited to, limited funding available to access and complete higher education qualification and graduate unemployment for those who complete with or without challenges, without qualifications, but suffer the market absorption due to market saturation and irrelevance of the qualifications offered. The UWC convocation, through the above background, finds it's necessary to play a significant role in reducing the multifaceted challenges that hinder individual and societal progress. Through this understanding, as the convocation president, I wish to invite you, Vice-Chancellor Robert Balfour, to the convocation table to discuss integrated and collaborative initiatives that shall reimagine a UWC outlook and its future. I can confidently assure you that this table is governed by the spirit of commitment, dedication, realignment, reconnection, proactiveness, and decisive implementation. Vice-Chancellor, I choose these words because, as we have begun with your term of office, we need to be committed in transforming our institution and society. The risk of us not being committed compromises the future of many households dependent on higher education solutions to societal problems. Excuse me. We need to be dedicated to our different but aligned roles and responsibilities in ensuring the realization of an academic excellent student, a worker or staff that receives a salary that sustains the general standard of living, a university executive that is responsible, transparent and accountable, and corruption-free, and a council that carries its fiduciary duty without any intimidation or interference. We need to positively realign our roles from council, institutional forum, senate, executive, staff, and students. In order to achieve this, my honorable Vice-Chancellor, we need to accept the shortcomings of the past 10 years and reimagine our path with our hearts being at the right place. We need to reconnect with our rich alumni base. May I repeat? We need to reconnect with our rich alumni base, of which, in my view, we have lost about 1 billion worth of alumni investment to this institution. We further need to reconnect with the historical name, as you have mentioned in your speech, the University of the Left, and surrounding communities that see UWC as their breakthrough. Vice-Chancellor, we may be ambitious, creative, innovative, but if we fail to being proactive and decisive, we shall point fingers at others, yet the problem lies with us. Vice-Chancellor, sacrifice is what drives progressives for a greater cause. Let your tenure be exemplary and prove wrong those who seek to see you fail. We are with you wholeheartedly. Welcome. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nompula. We now call upon the chairperson of the UWC Employees Union, Mr. Ayanda Takani, to address you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. It is with the warmest greetings and a heart full of pride that I extend a heartfelt welcome to all who have gathered here today. To the workers, to academia, to alumni, dignitaries, ministerial representatives, and esteemed guests at large, welcome to this momentous occasion. Today, as a humble servant of the workers of this institution, it is my distinct honor to welcome our Vice-Chancellor Inaugural, Professor Robert John Balfour, to the University of the Western Cape. Professor Balfour, your passion for social justice, inclusivity, transformative education is not only inspiring, but also a beacon of hope for our institution. We are confident that under your leadership, UWC will rise to new heights, reclaim its position as a university of the left, and continue to be a catalyst for meaningful change in our society. When you arrive, Chancellor, at UWC, you are greeted by a powerful sculpture by David Hlongwane. The sculpture is named Beginning and Ending. The sculpture depicts a mother dressed as a domestic worker, holding a broom, celebrating with her son, a graduate, proudly raises his degree clenched in his fists. This imagery is a profound representation of the spirit of UWC, a spirit that speaks of new beginnings, new hope, and the end of cycles of struggle and poverty. It is a reminder of the transformative power of education and the mission of this institution to uplift communities one student at a time. As a son of a domestic worker myself, who has personally benefited from UWC's transformative endeavor, I stand here today, Prof, as a living testimony to the impact of this institution. Professor Balfour, we urge you to continue this mission, to carry forward the torch of hope and transformation that UWC has always embodied. You join us at a particularly challenging yet pivotal moment in our history as an institution. A dark cloud looms over our institution, marked by governance debacles, inefficiencies, and ethical pitfalls. The higher education landscape is ever-changing, and UWC is not immune to these challenges. Professor Balfour, you must be courageous. You must be strong. You must be ready to face the eye of the storm and wrestle for the soul of our institution. We call on you to restore UWC to its former glory as a university of the left, to revive vigorous debate around true transformation, and to advocate for the future that reflects the values of justice, equality, and progress. Professor Balfour, this mission now rests solely in your hands. As the workers of this institution, we want you to know that we place our hopes in your hands. We place our hopes, dreams in your ability to lead with integrity, to listen with empathy, and to act with purpose. We place our hope in your commitment to creating an environment that is inclusive, where every member of this community, student, staff, faculty alike, can thrive and contribute positively to the legacy of UWC. We know that the road that lies ahead is not going to be an easy one, but we are confident in your ability to navigate with strength and grace. We are ready as workers to stand beside you, to support you, and to work tirelessly to ensure that UWC continues to be a place of excellence, innovation, and true transformation. Professor Balfour, you are now part of a family that has overcome adversity, that has dared to dream, that has always believed in the power of education to change lives. We are excited to see how your leadership will shape the future of this university, and we are committed to walking this journey with you every step of the way. Once again, Professor, welcome to the University of the Western Cape. May your time here be filled with purpose, impact, and the fulfillment of the hopes we as workers have placed in your hands. Together, let us build a future that honors the past, embraces the present, and inspires generations to come. Professor Balfour, as the workers of these institutions, often reduced to shadows with no voice, we thank you for an opportunity to welcome you here today. This gesture of inclusion does not go unnoticed. It speaks of your commitment, of inclusivity, it speaks of your boldness, it speaks of your character. Once again, we thank you and we welcome you to our family at UWC. We reaffirm as workers our commitment of protecting you, fighting for you, and supporting you wholeheartedly. We place our dreams and our hopes in your hands, Professor. Welcome to the UWC family.
Thank you, Mr. Tsakani. Prof. Balfour, I hope you are taking note. That's a big ask, eh? Next, to offer congratulations on behalf of the Student Representative Council, I call the President of the SRC, Mr. McIntosh Kasembe.
As the last speaker in the series of speakers that we have witnessed here today, I feel obliged to humbly ask that we please give them a round of applause, please. It has become tradition of me to stand here in the podium today to firstly take all of you in and to take the moment in. So if you would allow me just to take everyone in. Honorable Dr. Naledi Pandor, the Minister of Higher Education, Vice Chancellor Prof. Robert Balfour, distinguished guests, and everyone in the room. My name is Macintosh Kasembe, and I am the SRC President here at the University of the Western Cape. I stand before you here today filled with a lot of gratitude, and I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for being here, for your time, your dedication, and your unwavering commitment to this historic moment. For many of us, myself included, it is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience to witness the installation of a new rector and vice-chancellor of the university. And for me, it is a deep honor to address all of you today. You know, Prof, I called my mom today and I mentioned that I would be addressing at the installation, and she said to me, "Ooh, how much are you gonna get paid?" So then, Prof, I hope that we can rectify that situation. But I am humbled by the opportunity, and I recognize that it is only by the grace of our Lord and Savior that I'm standing here today. There are three moments that I consider as memorable that I've met Prof. The first moment was in the Vice-Chancellor presentation, candidate presentations. And I remember within the room there was consensus among, the rejection of Prof as the Vice-Chancellor of the university. And I was but a member of the South African Students' Congress at the time. And so I sat there, and for a moment, I said to myself, let me listen with the intent to understand and not to respond. And the presentation that you gave, Prof, spoke to the vision of UWC. It spoke to the contextual problems that we face here in the university, but importantly, it paved a way forward on what is the sustainable solution going forward. The second instance, Prof, you were no rector at the time, I was no SRC president, but I was invited by the CEI, Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, to be a program director at the Business and Innovation launch. And I remember in the delivery that I did there, after this delivery, Prof said, and in his words, no respect, I need to imitate you. You know, Macintosh, you need to open a public speaking school. So, Prof, I stand here today and ask that you be my funder. But, Prof, I want to take a moment, and just lastly, the last one actually was yesterday. About over an hour, myself and Prof had a long conversation about the vision that we share for UWC. How to never create an instance or what is similar and what is common, an us and them situation between the executive and the SRC. But it is crafting a collective vision where we can align all of our efforts. So, Prof, I want to take a moment to speak to you directly now. I stand here not only as the SRC president, but as someone who believes in you and in the path that lies ahead. A path that has been laid to you by destiny, a path filled with hope, trust, and the unwavering confidence that the students of this university have in you. It is no accident, Prof, that you now lead this institution at a time of great challenge. We are facing significant concerns. The issue around the accommodation capacity, a low number of postgraduate intakes, and the heavy financial burdens that weigh on so many of our students. You are leading us at the edge of uncertainty. But here's the good news, Prof. Here's the good news. History has shown us time and time again that transformative leaders are those who emerge during times of crisis. Think of Martin Luther King, for example, who led the civil rights movement during one of the most brutal times in American history, when the rights of black people were denied. Think for a moment then, Abraham Lincoln, who fought for the emancipation of enslaved people during the American Civil War. Or let's rewind and take it closer back home. Think of Nelson Mandela, whose leadership during both pre- and post-apartheid times liberated a nation through sheer will and courage. We can even look to the bold leadership of our former Vice-Chancellor, Professor Tyrone Pretorius, who navigated UWC through the heights of the Fees Must Fall movement. One of the most defining and challenging moments in South Africa's higher education history. There is one common thread that runs through all of these examples that I've provided to you. True leadership is born in the midst of crisis. And so, Prof, the central question that I want to pose to you today is this: are we ready to build a vision for UWC during this uncertain time? If the answer is yes, Prof, then I want to share 3 things with you and with everyone here. 3 things that are close to the hearts of each and every student here in this university. The first one, the safety and security of every student must be a priority. Our students, Prof, do not feel safe and supported, not only within the classroom, but on every inch of campus. So, Prof, I ask then that we make concerted efforts towards ensuring that brutalization is never inserted towards students, but the criminals of Belar and the criminals here surrounding Cape Town. The second thing, the accommodation challenge is not just a concern, it is a fundamental need. The question of land and accommodation will always be with us, and we must find a way to address it for the students who call UWC a home. The SRC can vouch a day does not go by where a student comes to us and say, ooh, angina res. I do not have accommodation. I am not financially cleared. I am not registered. And so, Prof, the accommodation question is a task and a priority that I believe we should spearhead. The third and the last thing, Prof, UWC students don't just need an institution. They need a home away from home. A place where they can thrive, feel supported, and know that their university cares deeply about their success, both academically and personally. Prof, we are confident in your leadership. As you step into the role of the 8th Rector and Vice-Chancellor of UWC, we trust that you will continue to lead with love, empathy, and a deep commitment to our students. I have witnessed firsthand the way you respond to student concerns. It's something truly exceptional. And I have no doubt that in the face of inevitable pressures that you will face, you will always put the needs of our students first. And in all that you do, Prof, please don't forget to keep the connection with us. Continue giving us your flair on TikTok and jumping into those social media challenges with us. You've got the res and you've got the swag, and that's something we love about you. So, Prof, as I conclude, we believe in you. We believe that you were chosen for this role, and we believe that you are the leader that will guide UWC into the brighter future that we all so yearn. The students are behind you. The SRC is ready to support you in every initiative that will uphold the core values and the founding principles of this institution. You have a vision for UWC, Prof. Now it's time to bring that vision into life. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment and this incredible opportunity. I am aware that there are people with a lot of money here, so we will be approaching you with regards to the Kamvaletu Fund, the initiative that is driven by the SRC to alleviate the financial burden towards students and to ensure that the doors of learning of this institution remains open to all those that are deserving. And for that, I am truly grateful, and I can't wait to see what we will achieve together. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kasembe, for that very inspiring speech. And I'm sure you will all agree with me when I say that when I listen to young people like this, it just gives me faith in the future of this country. So you can all send your regrets, your declines to Mr. Trump. We are not taking his offer. Guests, I think we need a little break. And so with that, I'd like to invite our Creative Arts Choir back to give us another rendition. Thank you. I think they deserve another round of applause. Thank you. With that, I'd like to call upon the chairperson of the board of USAF standing for University South Africa Forum, Professor Francis Peterson. Please welcome Prof. Peterson.
Thank you, Program Director, Chancellor, Chair of Council, Honourable Minister, esteemed colleagues, and I also would like to recognise the whole University of the Western Cape family, the staff, the students, the alumni that we heard a little bit earlier, and also distinguished guests. It is a privilege to stand before you today to pay tribute to Professor Robert Balfour as he takes up the mantle of Rector and Vice-Chancellor of the University of the Western Cape. I believe that this is a significant moment, not only for UWC, but for the broader higher education sector in South Africa. Professor Balfour is a scholar in the truest sense, someone whose intellectual curiosity has shaped both his academic journey and his approach to leadership. He has immersed himself in disciplines as diverse as applied linguistics, education, and the post-colonial literature, not simply to master these disciplines, but to challenge, to interrogate, and to expand the boundaries of knowledge. His work has often engaged with questions of identity, questions of transformation, and questions of access, questions that remain central to the role of higher education in our country. But yet, what sets Professor Balfour apart is not just his scholarly depth, but his creative spirit. He is a poet and a painter, a reminder that knowledge is not just something to be acquired, but something to be expressed, to be shaped, to be reimagined. This fusion of intellect and artistry gives him a rare ability to see beyond the immediate, to interpret the present with a bit of nuance, and to envision a future that is both bold and inclusive. These are precisely the qualities that I believe define great leadership. UWC itself has long been a space of visionaries, an institution that has defied limitation and redefined its own destiny. It has been a place of struggle, of activism, of academic excellence, and above all, of impact. In many ways, Professor Balfour's appointment is a continuation of this legacy. He steps in a role that demands not only institutional stewardship, but also moral and intellectual courage. So as the chairperson of University South Africa, I recognize that the challenges facing our institutions of higher learning are complex and they are evolving. Universities have a significant impact on the advancement of our society. They shape, indeed, the education system. They produce and they hone the skills and competencies needed for the economy to contribute to scientific discoveries, to advance and innovate, and shape the overall progress of society. Therefore, universities within the context of education broadly are a compass for the intellectual, the technological, and the social advancement of a nation. And University South Africa recognizes the need for strong and effective universities and promotes cohesive, but very importantly, diverse public universities that are in service of society. Universities also require leadership that is principled, yet adaptable, strategic, yet empathetic. Professor Balfour has consistently demonstrated these attributes. He understands that the university does not exist in isolation. It's a living, dynamic institution that must respond to the needs of its students, its scholars, and the society it serves. Professor Balfour, as you take up this role, you do so with the trust and the support of the entire higher education community. Your leadership will no doubt leave an indelible mark, not only on this institution, but on the broader academic landscape. So congratulations, and may this be the beginning of an impactful and an inspiring tenure. Thank you.
Yes, just to inform you, there has been a slight change to the program. Unfortunately, the Mayor, Mr. Gordon Hill-Lewis, couldn't be with us and let us know late yesterday, so he won't be addressing you. And we do have now the Minister of Higher Education and Training, the Honorable Dr. Nkabani, who will be addressing us. Welcome, Dr. Nkabani, to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Program Director of the session. I'm going to start by acknowledging my mother, my mentor, my minister, once a minister, always a minister. Whereas when you are speaking about not just an ordinary woman, but about an extraordinary woman, a woman of substance. Dr. Naledi Panda. The Chancellor of the University of the Western Cape, Reverend Thabo Makgopa, the Chairperson of the Council of the University of the Western Cape, Ms. Oliswa Mpongoshe, esteemed members of the University Council, the executive management present here today, the President of Convocation, the President of the SRC present here today, the leaders of various student formations present here today, UWC staff members and students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be here with you today on this special occasion of the inauguration of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Western Cape, Professor Robert John Balfour. I thank the leadership of this university for the invitation and extending a warm welcome to us. We truly appreciate. I wish to indicate that this celebration coincides with the send-off of one of our own, Ms. Senamile Masango, who is a product of this university. May her soul rest in peace. Let me start off by congratulating you again, Professor Balfour. I wish you well on your appointment as the rector of this distinguished university. UWC holds a special place in the minds and hearts of many South Africans, having played a prominent role in the history of the country, particularly in the struggle against apartheid. It has provided an intellectual base for many activists and scholars who fought courageously against racial oppression and envisioned a just and free South Africa where all would be equal and be treated with human dignity. In 1982, in its mission statement, the university rejected the foundation of apartheid by adopting a declaration of non-racialism and affirming its commitment to the development of marginalized communities in South Africa. We must continue to pay tribute to fallen heroes such as the former rector, Jakes Gerwel, who lifted UWC and made it the intellectual home of the left, paying greater attention to social and political issues impacting progress of disadvantaged communities and other rights activists, such as Sibongile Ndashe and Colette Solomon. It is in this context that UWC is generally considered as the intellectual home of the progressive politics in South Africa. I believe that, Prof, your appointment is not only timely, but indeed befitting to an institution of this stature with a rich and remarkable history. You bring to UWC an extensive experience in university senior management and leadership, exemplified by your previous role as the Dean and Deputy Vice Chancellor of Teaching and Learning at the University of Northwest. Your publication record with articles published in leading international journals highlights how well you have used your talent bestowed on you. I learned that you have produced 35 journals articles and 21 book chapters published under your name, and that you have also edited and co-edited several books. Your journey is a true testament of your overall commitment to research and scholarship. I believe that UWC is in good hands under your stewardship, and that together with your team, you will be able to steer this institution in the right direction. As you know, there are many challenges confronting our higher education system, and UWC has had its fair share in respect to governance, challenges of students' access as well as success, accommodation, postgraduate support, amongst others, and in many ways, you have overcome them so far. I trust that you and your new team will continue on a positive growth path, delivering on your mandate, providing access to many students who are hoping to study and change the circumstances of their families. In that regard, I will support you, and you must be assured I'm here to support you. We need to understand that things are changing at a very alarming rate, with information and communication technologies being an indissoluble part of teaching and learning. Institutions across the world are concerned by digitization, in particular artificial intelligence, and its role in enhancing our obstructing teaching and learning. To the community of UWC, I wish to remind you that lasting advice of our late President Nelson Mandela once said, "Our daily deeds as ordinary South African must produce an actual South African reality that will reinforce humanity's belief in justice, strengthen its confidence in the nobility of the human soul, and sustain all our hopes for a glorious life for all." This all includes our students who come from all over the country, who deserve nothing but excellence, which are well positioned to offer. Because I'm here with this diverse portfolio of academics and the family of the post-school education and training, I have noted a number of issues that you have raised, President, as well as the VC. Some of them, they speak on how best do we re-engineer our post-education and training system in South Africa. Because you spoke about sustainability of our institutions, you spoke about curriculum, on how best then do we transform it to respond to the needs of our economy. Then the President spoke about challenges that young people are facing in institutions of higher learning. I wish to announce that as part of changing the size and shape of our PSET sector, we have concluded the appointment of NSFAS board. I wish to indicate that ship, I want you to listen. the person who is going to be, or who is the chairperson of the board, is a woman. Dr. Karen Stander is the newly appointed chairperson of NSFAS board. We believe that is going to turn around the institution, working with USAF, working with VCs, working with the community as a whole. We believe in her. We need to support her. We also need to support, love, and cherish our newly appointed Vice Chancellor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your warm message, Minister. We have now come to that point where all the speeches are done, and we're almost at the end. But I need to say a few words before I let you go to the back of the room. So events do not occur in a vacuum, and it takes the coming together of various officers and many individuals to plan, organize, and execute in a manner that ensures that everyone is satisfied. And when an event is impacted by external factors and requires constant assessment, reassessment, changes, as this one has, you will agree, then the strength of the organizing team is tested to the limit. I am just grateful that no one walked out during the times that everything had to change at a split moment. For that, and the strength and stamina and resilience that the organizing team displayed, I want to say thank you. It was no mean feat, and as always, I think you did a sterling job. Our main brief from Professor Balfour was, keep it simple and as low cost as possible. Trying to arrange an event that is a significant milestone, not only in the life of the rector, but also in the history of UWC. And that which should still reflect the stature of its significance with almost no budget required some innovative thinking and planning. Fortunately for us, we have some amazingly generous individuals and organizations who, without a moment's hesitation, came through and offered their assistance, either through financial contributions, services, or reduced costs. For this, I wish to thank the following individuals, organizations, and service providers. Sanlam, and with a special thank you to a council member of ours, Mr. Suna Olabre, who ensured that we were able to get started with a generous financial donation. Thank you to Sanlam. Zamela Technology, Pro Events, Adowa Properties, Bidvest, the mayor for making this venue available at no cost, and this was facilitated by another council member of ours, Councillor Michael Manuel. Thank you, Mr. Manuel. And ER24 for emergency medical services. Our service providers, Knights Caterers, NADO Graphics, Mr. Tyrone Paris for assisting with venue logistics, Ms. Lucille Fester, the Premier's PA, for assisting with communication. We want to say a huge thank you. Without all of you, this wouldn't have been possible. Our sincere appreciation also goes to all the speakers for their warm and congratulatory messages. To all of you who have traveled from various destinations to be here, and all our guests for gracing us with their presence on this very momentous occasion. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. One last announcement before I take my seat. After the procession leaves the stage, the rector will remain at some point, we haven't yet decided where we will keep him, for a photo session. There will be staff who will manage this to prevent any kind of congestion on the stage. So please follow their advice as they try and manage this as efficiently as possible, where we place Prof. Balfour and you may then come to him, have your photo taken by our official photographer, and then leave the stage to make way for the next group to come through. In the meantime, there are refreshments at the back. Please help yourself so that we can do this as efficiently and without any particular congestion. So kindly, please assist us with the flow by leaving the stage also as soon as your picture has been taken. No selfies, please. We've got our official photographer. And the photographs will be made available to you. We will email you a link. It will be on our website. Trust me, you will have access to the photos as well. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for being an amazing audience. I'm going to take my seat and wait for the Chancellor to dissolve the congregation. Thank you.
To our registrar for really enabling this wonderful occasion to happen. Well done, Lisa. And once again, congratulations, Professor Balfour. Let's give Professor Balfour a warm round of applause, please. This congregation of the University of the Western Cape is now dissolved. The Nhlangano ye-University yentshona Koloni ngoku ifikelele esiphelweni. Hierdie vergadering van die Universiteit van Wes-Kaapland word nou